Michael Hay here, and welcome to audio blog number 2. You might be asking about the picture of the sunflowers. Well, last time I had a purposely blank screen. I don't do video blogs. Maybe one day I'll work up to it. But for now, I'm going to stick to the audio. And I had to make it a video or YouTube to accept. So, that was a blank screen. And I've decided now that I'm going to include a photo of, with the theme of just something we talked about last week. Or last audio blog. So I mentioned sunflowers, so that's why there's a big picture of sunflowers. Also, I'm going to try and keep the blog to 15 minutes or less, because otherwise I have to cut the video in half, because YouTube won't allow anything longer than that. I've seen longer things than that on YouTube. I'm not sure how to do it, and like I said, technology is not really my thing. So, I got a couple of questions about, well, not so much about last week's blog. Rather, I just walked up to people in my class and say, what would you ask me about my book? So one question I got about my author photo is, what's with the hat? Because I have my hat there. My hat and I have a very long history together. I got it when I was like 13 or 14, maybe younger, maybe older. I don't exactly remember the exact time, but I remember where I got it, and that was at the Havelock Country Jamboree, which is, I think, the largest country jamboree ever. Maybe, I don't know. It is a black suede hat, and, well, first one, it's very heavy, but I was out in the sun that day, and I just decided, you know what, my ball cap really, really sucks, and I want something better. So I actually had a friend of mine there, and he bought one as well, though he bought one of those black felt Stetsons, and he even got the hat, like a little raincoat thing to go on it, because he can't get it wet. But I saw mine, and I was interested, just because it looked like something I'd be interested in. And I tried it on, and my mom was there, and actually we got the brim bent into the right proper shape that just seemed to accentuate my face, so it was just like a match made in heaven. And I think I paid 40 or 50 bucks for it originally, maybe more, maybe less. I think I got a deal, well, because I was wearing a Scouts Canada t-shirt at the time. The Scouts do a lot of, or they did anyway, I don't know if they do anymore, they did a lot of recycling at the Jamboree. So they'd go out, clean the field every night. Them and volunteers, it wasn't just kids, obviously. But yeah, so it was my hat, it kind of defined me. Like, you try on something new and people are like, oh, that looks good, and then they don't mention anything. But it was just like, the room descends into silence. People look at me and like, whoa, that hat looks really good on you. And like my grandma and stuff were doing that, saying that, so it just kind of stuck. And I have a bit of philosophy behind wearing it, because yes, it is unusual, and I mean, what writer isn't unusual? But there's a certain utility to it. Like, it does keep the rain off, it does keep the sun off, and more importantly is people can find me. Sometimes I don't really notice people, like when I'm out, like I don't see people driving in their cars, or I'll be like walking across the parking lot, or in a crowded grocery store. I'm not usually the one to notice other people. I still like stopping and saying hello when I do see somebody. So if I wear that hat, usually most people find me. Or, if at a concert or something, my friends can find me in a crowd. So it's because I'm tall and skinny and wear a big black hat, most people usually see me. And since it became something I was known for, it's hard to get away from that. Like, years later, somebody mentioned that it was like Indiana Jones-like, because I just always had that hat. And it is true, but well, I'm kind of sentimental, so it just becomes like an old friend. It's part of me. I got attached to it. Sort of like my boots in the same sense. I've worn these pair of combat boots that my brother originally bought at Army Surplus, and when he moved away from home, he forgot them. I like to think he left them, because I took them and I told him I wasn't giving them back, so he meant to leave them for me. I've worn those for like 4 or 5 years now. So it's something you become known for. It's not so unusual that people like give me a wide berth, but it's unique enough to say that, I am my own person and I like this hat and I'm going to wear it regardless of what other people say. And another thing I notice it does is it draws certain people into conversation, people that I would enjoy having a conversation with. I mean, it's the same principle. It's like a flag. You run up your colors and you see who comes to them. Like if you walk down the street, I don't know, with a shaved head wearing a cape, you're going to attract a certain type of people. I'm not not going to stereotypically, say these are the people who, but I assume you would assume that you will attract a certain type of people from doing that. So yeah, same with the hat. Generally people, as I've noticed, that actually like discussing books and that. One person in particular, though I won't mention names, though you know who you are and you know that it worked for you. And, you can put decorations on a hat. So right now I have a feather stuck in it. Used to be around Thanksgiving, I'd find a turkey feather and put in it. Or, sometimes I'd wear one of those little black, like paper clips, like the big ones that look, with the two silver arms, and it's a black clip, and you can, well, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. I don't know what to call them. I used to wear one of those for a while, and then I had a playing card that I stuck in it for a time, the Ace of Hearts, which was pretty funny. I don't think everybody got the joke of that, but I did at the time. I was like 17. And just stuff like that. And actually, it's kind of funny, because my height's undetermined, but generally, between 5'11" and 6 feet tall. And I have a brother that's, the next shortest brother is like 6'2" or 6'1", and everybody thinks I'm taller than him. So the hat also, makes me seem larger than I am. So I was going to say larger than life, but I'm not that narcissistic, I hope. So I suffer short syndrome in a tall family, and it helps with that. And there are those people that look at the hat and go like, ooh, this guy's really weird, and they stay away. And I feel sorry that it also has that effect, but I mean, you gotta remember that you can't please everybody. But I think on the whole, it makes me look a little, especially when I wear my long coat, it makes me look a little more professional. And the funny thing is if I wear my long overcoat and the hat, I get one reaction, and as soon as I put on my glasses, I become a lot less scary, I guess, to some people, because a lot more people will just, cashiers and whatnot, will speak up and kind of chit-chat more. I don't know, I guess I have a scary face, which doesn't help. It's kind of, it's something that I inherited from my dad's side of the family, it seems, because everybody says that about them. They look big and mean and scary, and then when they laugh and smile, it doesn't really fit their face, even though, they're laughing and having a good time, and they're not necessarily, or they're not, mean, tough people, but they just look that, I don't know, it's a face that, I'm guessing that it probably served my ancestors in battle quite a bit, because if I know anything about my family history, 1,000 years, it was a warrior type clan, renowned for it. So I imagine that was probably, and it might even, if you believe in evolution, it might have even come out of that. I don't really know. So anyway, the hat does kind of take away from my face, but not in a bad way. It accentuates. It is a good accentuation. Can you say it like that? Well, I did, so too bad. For the second question of this audio blog, I was asked, at what point did I decide to add an alien massacre in the middle of a vampire book? Yeah, that does look a little weird when you put it like that, and I never really thought of it in that light, which is probably one of the reasons why I did it. It seemed a good idea at the time. It was just another battle. It was just another chapter of his life. Oh, if you didn't figure it out, James said he lived roughly, I think, 12 lives, 11 of which was over his natural life. And anyway, the book is roughly split into 12 sections, so it's kind of like his 12 lives. So in some regard, that's why it reads like a bunch of short stories. And one of those sections of his life was just this another conflict that I never really thought of as here he's in space killing aliens, this sword-wielding vampire, claymore-wielding vampire. He does not wield a katana, and if this is ever made into a movie, that would be the only point that I stress. No katanas. Thank you. But yes, it's not just some vampire killing aliens in space, crazy, science fiction type thing, though that's clearly what it can be taken as. That wasn't my intent originally when I was writing that section, or right before I wrote it. Because I just get an idea, and I know okay, for this chapter I roughly want this to happen. I just kind of have a list of things I want to happen, and then I just start writing, and whatever does happen happens. I think those were some of my successes by approaching it with that style rather than trying to plan everything out. But I knew I wanted this big conflict where some planet was basically destroyed, and originally I had thought of it as people, just people that had gone off into space and then came back bringing war. But then I thought, if James is gonna destroy because he did destroy the Gherkins, like completely ruin them. If he was going to just go into combat and have that big of a fight, I kind of started to second guess myself, and I'm like, well, you know, not every soldier that he would mow through would be evil. Like, there are good and bad people on either side in any conflict. There are heroes on every side, I think is the popular way to say it, but that also implies there are villains on either side. So I felt kind of not like it was my place to have James destroying completely outright these other people, though he has done that in smaller ways in the book. But the huge arm conflict, I didn't feel right having him destroy so many people where, you know, it was questionable whether or not they were evil. So I had to make a race of completely evil people, and then that didn't quite feel right either, so I just made them aliens. So there's a bit of a detachment from reality, because I mean, it would totally change the flow, I believe, if you had him destroying people in that matter. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Germany now, after, you know, the stigma of World War II, they have try to have a really peaceful policy. So, like, in video games and that, if there's any, like, large scale killing of, you know, somebody else, I think they have it. They can't be humans. Like, they have to be, they can be humanoid, but, you know, kind of like aliens or monsters type thing. And that might not be true. I mean, that's just gossip or chatter that I heard from probably a less than reliable source, but I get the idea. You're just trying not to, you don't want to come across as a person with no value for life at all. And I think it makes up for it that James did even then feel bad about them, but it just by making them an alien race, it kind of created a distance from them. But I mean, I didn't entirely abandon the concept of that huge conflict, because the night the fences went down, those were all people, and with the Geno Hulks, they were people too, though they weren't clearly human. So from him going into that big fight, that actually spawned those two chapters where he was fighting more people like. But for the whole, you know, huge conflict in space and, you know, the bombing of a planet, I didn't feel like I could make that people. It didn't feel right. Which, I mean, might not be. It might have the opposite effect, because it kind of then seems like, oh, well, if they're not human, they're not important. I'm not saying the Gherkins weren't important. You know, everything has a right to life. So in that regard, that is like an extreme form of racism, saying, you know, they're aliens, they're okay to die. But you know, it's not, every conflict isn't clear cut, and it's hard to not everything is, you know, black and white as the cop cars would have us assume. There's a lot of gray area. So I mean, I did the best I could, and that's why there's this huge alien massacre. And I realize now, after it going into print, that it does seem kind of like Independence Day, but that was far from my mind of why I did it. So yeah, let that be a warning too. You know, you might see something and just assume, oh, well, you know, this author copied Independence Day. Well, maybe not, because the way I arrived at something that looks similar had what I believe is completely different motivation, and I have no idea why the authors of Independence Day did it the way they did. But realistically, you can find examples of that anywhere. People, for different reasons, coming to the same conclusion or having a similar type story. And I hate when they say there are no new ideas in the world, like you're just copying something else. Oh, this has elements of that movie, so you're just copying it, and it's called copying. It's like, that's not what it's called. That's called what I would deem culture, because a culture is just you know, similar ideas, similar beliefs built upon, reinforced, you know, explored in different ways. But you know, if I accidentally bore resemblance to Independence Day, that would just be culture, and we'd be exploring the same questions. It's like, you know, do humans have the ultimate right in the universe? And is it okay to destroy what we would deem an aggressor? And so on and so forth. I'm not going to get into those discussions. That's not the point of this blog, but that is a potential side effect. So it looks like I've reached my time limit, and I really don't know how to end this, as is per usual. I will make the same offer that I did last time, and if you have any questions for me to answer, I will do my best to answer them. You can post your questions either in the comments on this video, or on my Facebook page for my book, or on my blog. And you know, if you really want to find those, you will find my links somewhere around here. on some of these pages. I don't get how this whole thing webs together. It's really crazy where it's like Facebook's connected to Twitter, which is connected to my blog, which is connected back to, you know, it just goes around and around in a circle. So I don't know. However you found this, I'm sure if you follow the trail, you could probably discover where to leave a comment. And yeah, I try to pay attention to all those things. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, so yeah, this is the end. Goodbye.